benefiting from this behavior right now. Really very interested in using that far right shoulder. That's presumably what this driver's going to continue to want to do as we continue eastbound now. Those LAPD units still in
I was searching through the night for someone to ease my mind. And I wanna know, babe, could it be you? I wanna know, could it be you? I was looking left and right for someone to blow my mind. And I wanna know, babe, could it be you? I wanna know, could it be you? I was right kind of love, right kind of woman, right kind of lead for me. And I'm thinking about the right kind of love, the right kind of woman, the right kind of lead for me. Could it be you? Could it be you? Could it be you? Could it be you? Yeah, I was looking for my wife to spend the rest of my life. And I wanna know, babe, could it be you? Could it be you? Could it be you? Yeah. I was looking for a queen, one who I could share my dreams. And I wanna know, babe, could it be you? You wanna know, could it be you? I was looking for the right kind of love, baby. President. Could it be you? 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 Could it be you?
That's what I created with the foundation. Traditional. Okay, so now let's talk about some of the now let's talk about what she knows and how she's treated you. She's found handcuffs and ankle shackles and everything like that. She said last time she confessed. To be honest with you, but she's about what she hopes will happen at and going down to the next defendant's appearance process rights, issue of the Sixth Amendment, the state of rights. Therefore, the defendant requests the court to allow for the fundamental right to selection and vote trials. Then she files another motion. The defendant requests the court to allow for on December 6th, the defendant's granted self-representation. It's been extremely difficult for the defendant to manage files, take copious notes, and alternate trial hearings or handcuffs. It would be impossible to represent oneself at a trial under these conditions. Conditions also the defendant's appearance on restraints, handcuffs, and shackles violates due process rights. It impedes her ability to perform writing tasks in defense. The defendant is going to properly allowed to defend herself. She must not be separate or different from the state represented. To be able to stand off without the attorneys is a trial. Any proposed Madison County Sheriff's Office restraints cause this defendant to appear in a jury different from the state's representation. You're violating the defendant's due process rights and the right to a fair trial. This defendant's documented behavior for the last 5 years while in custody. There is no restraints necessary for the trial at all. This defendant had been a long trial without any disagreement at all. This defendant was focused on stellar behavior all the time. She knew the consequences of incarcerated for the last 5 years. Therefore, the defendant requested all security restraints to be made for this particular defendant. The defendant also requested the CPA for trial to take place. The defendant requested something which ordered the state, the sheriff's office removed restraints, handcuffs, and shackles in all trial proceedings of the trials.
Well, Lori is right that she has behaved at all of the proceedings, and she didn't cause any issues in Idaho, but she wasn't responsible. She was here in Idaho. I'll have to run a check.
But I don't know. There's so many of these sort of yeah, like so here's the thing. The judge already on that close. And he said she could wear normal street clothes. During the trial and jury selection, and all other hearings, she can't. She has to wear an outfit in jail.
The sheriff
Actually responded to the request with this as far as the shackles and the clothing. The sheriff said the judge already knew the clothing used for but talking about having the handcuffs and the shackles removed, the sheriff said, there we go. In the defendant's case, the sheriff's office has reviewed her request and recognizes that she is to move out of courtroom. However, pursuant to policies and procedures and the sheriff's office duty to maintain control of custody and inmates, and to ensure the safety of the security of the court, the defendant cannot go unrestrained. As such, the sheriff's office recommends the use of a rack vest, and in addition to the detention officers in the courtroom during the defendant's trial, and I think they mean and deputies. The rack vest is designed to temporarily stop an attacking detainee, thus buying time for the security officers to react. The belt sits comfortably on the straps just as the belt is not visible to the jury. Further, the belt works on one remote one sensor system, ensuring that activation of other remotes will not trigger the vest accidentally. These two security devices prevent the sheriff's office to restrain defendants. Having restraints, we have to recommend an unarmed detention officer and an armed sheriff deputy in the courtroom. And then the sheriff said after reviewing the motion, I have upon recommendations for the inmates attending the trial wear a leg brace and a rack off around their waist, which allows detention officers to deliver electric shock virus electricity. These two devices are in the air and not visible to the jurors. Handcuffs and chains with the big windows are all going along the wall. She has to wear her handcuffs. And this is done specifically for a jury. And in case it sounds like during trials, they don't wear handcuffs. The jail staff will give control and custody of inmates from transfers to jails and all that. Once the inmates are secured to the facility, all inmates are restrained while outside the facility. In this case, they remove the restraints while she's in the courtroom. She can wear that rack belt vest, which is a silver jewel, and a hidden leg brace to restrain to limit mobility. And
it's quiet.
yeah, so saying maybe, yeah,
And the only sound I hear is that of the snoring next to me.
There's no reason that she wouldn't be
Lost
rack.
in
So that's pretty interesting. I did not know about this
It's
rack.
funny where one is
I have to
good.
check and
The thought you want to marry me, and every once in a while I can't
taser
something
people
right.
or something. Obviously, it's enough to kind of get the person to pay attention and behave and don't right, which you need these days. You've seen it all the time. We saw it in that video of the guy in Vegas who jumped over the desk in Las Vegas and attacked the judge while she was on the bench. It was startling to say.
If you are home, you're in risk of house healing. House healing. Psychedelics can take out the injury, effectively stealing the equity in your home.
what people don't realize is the ease in which this crime can happen. I can take the deed to your house and I can transfer that deed into my name. It's a great crime, and it's happening all the time.
I know the challenge and myself because somebody forged a deed about
Silent night, holy night, Armstrong,
Signatures on the deed.
round your virgin mother and child, holy infant, so tender and mild. It's lit heavenly,
the best way to protect yourself from this type of threat is to consistently and habitually check consistency.
Noite feliz, noite feliz, oh Jesus, Deus da luz, quiseste nascer nosso irmão e a nós todos salvar e a nós todos salvar. Anjos do céu anunciando a vida de Deus. Oh, bendito
That's the allegation. Two, on about January 30th, issued Trinity K obtained and distributed the attorney-client privilege communications. We say Trinity K got information she should have. Messages for communication between attorney here is handled in a mail and 3%. And number three, that on or about March 11th this year, Trinity K gave legal advice to the defense of this meeting.
That's okay, I take it. I'm asking when you said you didn't care, said I'd never will. Cause I'm easy, nothing Ever since you left me, tried to make me small, but I'm free and easy, don't need you at all. Been 3 months since you've been gone, I've been by myself. All this time I've been alone, it's been with someone else. That's okay, I sure can't take it, you can't make me cry. Free and easy, nothing on my mind. Feel so right and easy, wasting all my time. Ever since you left me, tried to make me small, but I'm free and easy. Don't need you at all.
Yeah, I want you to tell you. Well, actually, I'm just going to That's exactly what she did. She says the state of Arizona requires that
Now that time's past, these days have changed apart. Maybe we should try again. Maybe we should try. But that's okay, I just wanna take all these years now. You said you were coming, I just said no, that's alright. Really easy, nothing's alright. So ever since you left me, tried to make you small, but it's really easy, don't need you at all. Really easy, nothing's alright. It's so easy, wasting all my time. Ever since you left me, tried to make you
State was advised that Jimmy was for special sections. Your voice, several questions, State was advised that Jimmy police record special squad.
When the sativa hits your red blanket is tossed across your eye and makes your teeth sweat. I was walking through this forest filled with these crazy little gnomes. All I know is that they had a trailer of 100% This was supposed to be your song. It's time I wrote myself one. To get me right, to get me high, and to pass it around. I was surrounded by vanilla papers so I could savor the flavor later. The impact this blunt had on my mind was like 1,000-mile wide crater. It's time I take my resin and ride my soul. With the smoke that I'm exhaling, extracted from my bones. This was supposed to be your love song. but it's about time I wrote myself one. The only thing that remains constant is my heart. The only thing that remains constant. I'm high there. What's supposed to be? Song. Yeah. Oh no. I said it's about time for myself. Get us by, to get us high.
If you're a veteran with a disability rating, you know the law. If you have updated your VA disability rating in the last 2 years or so, it's almost certain you're entitled to some sort of increase. A modest increase in your VA disability rating can increase your VA disability income over $600 per month. If you're sure that the VA is a vast bureaucracy, you have any one of the best interests. That's why I created a company that is 100% independent. It's almost the first friend of mine who's military. He's also retired. He's also very forthright, saying, this is the process, and by the way, I just recently retired from the 6 years military. I'm here to be able to fill out. I got a huge response on this is exactly what we're doing. The VA doctor who is paid by the VA is lifting all female. The VA wants them to do. If we go to our organization, we have our own doctors, we have our own experts. Doctors like that, they're not flat. I've never seen the doctor before it is set up. Eventually, hires our service as a lifetime career. This is something that all veterans should consider. It's good to have someone who does that all the time.
It's a silent reminder. Keep pounding your ears. It's so
Very seriously easy to do, and an absolute expert is going to be in touch with you.
it might seem bad.
Lexi with Hypermax here at Hospitals and London 2025. Claire from Hi Claire, thanks for joining us. really fascinating it's really fascinating and that's one of the different situations it is to the differences so that's about partnerships. How do you build those partnerships that are the right fit for your team and for your clients? So I think that I think the negotiation, I believe with the different ways and if you can invest in the industry which will implement spend time and care on the so and I have another one that I should say that yes, are there any questions you have about so I think that right now, I think it's time to do this Standing partnerships. What are some other things that you
depression is overdue. Shadows hide his peaceful view. He's the only one who can see through. All else is a vision, and I'm like a rush. He self-taught something, self-made machine. Confidence divides him, joined by his dream. And I still need a man, larger than he sees. What choice? The fast and fatal
Here and today we want to discuss about the great ballet trial in Arizona, which starts in this Humanimals. And
There's no one here in this place. It's a classic golden guilty, not suspected, never noticed, or corrected. Society will pay his price. It's up to him to break the ice. A true temptation will entice. He will have his story, his quarter hour of glory. He sails toward the sun, his self-made machine. Confidence confides in him, joined by his one. When I still need a man, larger than he fast and fatal scream. Fast and fatal scream.
She's about motions that she needs, tries to draw a certain position should be allowed to testify. But remember, she also does not want to waive the right to the speedy trial. She wants to have the right away, and it is scheduled to start, as I mentioned, jury selection begins this week. So let's jump into the first filing that we're going to talk about today. This was the motion for this jury the prosecutor for misconduct in Lori's life. Defendant Lori Daybell hereby requests that both case numbers be disqualified. He dismissed from prosecuting misconduct in the United States Attorney So she mentions two cases as well. The case we're talking about goes to trial next week. Case in town, She's basically a conspiracy to commit murder charge there. The second case is the shooting, the attempted shooting of the Red Road and the battle trial. She's saying that Trudy Kennedy was the prosecutor in this case. Should we dismiss it because the boys on this case? She says, the prosecutor is so she finishes. Trudy Kennedy right here. On or about September 6, 2024, Trudy Kennedy challenges to interfering with the defendant's right to conduct an investigation. So Lori saying that she wasn't even conducting an investigation. Trina told the police departments, Gilbert and Chandler, to not give her documents. So that's the allegation that
Now, January 30th edition of Trina K obtained and distributed electronic client privilege communications with the defendant through intelligence review Trina saying that Trina K got information that she shut down messages for communication for 30 years, yet were jailed and bankruptcy. And number three, in honor of our martial information, Trina K gave legal advice to defense witness in a quote off the record conversation regarding how to avoid being served with a subpoena from the defense. Ms. K has personally filled her ethics and duties helping know that the witness will find the case, by audience, or it is unseen. Because this court is a court of the state's economy, Trina K became willing and disregarded for her ethical obligation. This is sad to see where one person is standing here in a high-profile it seems to me there is not or is obligated to this conduct is outrageous and needs to be addressed by the court. The actions the defendant is seeking this court take are as follows. One, removal from all cases. Two, sanctions. And three, disbarment by the state of Arizona. So these are big allegations of these big penalties that the rate is and she's making it personal by bringing in Trina K's boyfriend, Juan Martinez, who was worked on the Jody Arias case years ago in Maricopa County. Now, I want to tell you, well, actually, I'm just going to let Trina K respond because that's exactly what she did. She said the state of Arizona, Justice Court denied her motion to attempted to ban the prosecutor's conduct. The state response used the three allegations by noting the facts as alleged by noting the facts by on September 6th, the state became aware that the defense had made a public records request to the police department. The state female defense counsel had asked them to request these items from the state. The state also requested documents listed on the defendant's public records request to requested these documents. The state obtained the documents from the defense requested. The state disclosed as September 18th, the state was advised that the defense was a problem. Using the private analysis section
Down that old Kentucky road, where it goes, no one knows. But we will go there, we will see what we can.
The state was also advised that Chandler Police did not know what was being requested as raw records. Chandler Police record specialist advised Warren Boyce that the computer crimes detectives were involved in the case. Their reports contained downloaded information on all devices from Chandler Police. All reports related to the download of Charles Allen's devices had been previously disclosed to the defense. Additionally, all extractions related to Charles Allen's device have been disclosed. The state saying what you were asking for, what you requested, they've been disclosed. You have them. On September 19th, the state filed the state's motion for defense to comply. On October 15th, the court issued an entry denying the state's request. The state is unaware of any other public records request to either Chandler Police or Police by the defendant or the defense team. So Lori Vallow is claiming in that first point that they withheld evidence from her, that the state is responding and saying, no, we didn't. Study one that we gave to you, and there's nothing.
Blackmail on day one? Not good.
Streaming exclusively on Max.
I really love the energy in Silicon Valley and the power staff that inspires me.
Need to get rid of bulky, unwanted items like old furniture, a used grill, or even a garage full of stuff? Book Quota, the easiest way to get rid of anything. As the largest provider network in the U.S., we're everywhere your junk is. with rates up to 30% cheaper than our competitors. Plus, we provide furniture assembly. Visit Loco.com to book removal and disposal, guaranteed upfront pricing. Load up, the modern junk removal company.
Where regular shoes feels this crap. Wide step, wide fit, hands-free Skechers slip-ins feel like this. The Skechers slip-ins just step in, no bending down, no touching my shoes. Try a wide fit Skechers slip-in. Point number 2.
February 6th, these are not the jails, the allegations that Trina K withheld or read attorney-client privilege between Oregon and her Idaho appellate attorney.
February 6th, the state disclosed the jail calls made by Humanimals between October and January, as well as jail messages and photos from Humanimals' tablet from October to January. On March 18th, the defendant filed a motion to dismiss for violation of attorney-client privilege. The state is currently working on a response to this motion. The state hereby incorporates its response to the defendant's motion to dismiss for violation of attorney-client privilege as part of this response. So it sounds like we're going to get something bigger on this particular issue. Issue number 3. Rory Vallow says that Trina K advised me, gave me advice on how to avoid a subpoena. This is how Trina K responds. On March 6th, the defendant filed a notice. The state requested that separate notices be filed for each cause number so the state would know which defenses and witnesses applied to each case. On March 7th, the state learned that defense to notice witness Nate Eaton is a reporter from Idaho. On March 12th, the defendant filed a supplemental notice. March 16th, the state filed a motion to include all witnesses on or supplemental filing. So that's a lot of words. Basically, the state filed a motion to have the people on that witness list included, not included in potential witness to testify. At the final trial management conference on March 18th, the court heard from parties on this motion. The state advised that it did not have contact information for most of the witnesses. The state also advised that one of the defense witnesses, me, was a reporter. Nate Eaton contacted this prosecutor. I missed the page there, sorry. Nate Eaton contacted this prosecutor after court on March 18th, and this prosecutor called Mr. Eaton back. Mr. Eaton advised this prosecutor that his knowledge about the case comes from his interviews and investigation as a reporter. Mr. Eaton also advised that he had not been served with a subpoena by the defendant and he hoped to be in court for the trial. The prosecutor advised Mr. Eaton that even if he was not served, he still could not be in the courtroom if he was a noticed witness and the rule of exclusion was in place. The prosecutor advised Mr. Eaton that this prosecutor would try to interview the witnesses and file a motion to conclude those that should be concluded at the end of the next week, which would be this week. The prosecutor did not advise Mr. Eaton how to avoid service of the defendant's subpoena. So, but I can tell you based on both of those responses that this case response is accurate. For one, Lori Vallow Daybell said that on or about March 11th, Trina K gave me legal counsel. I have never spoken to Trina K in my life before March 18th. So that is wrong on or about March 11th. I did say on Corporate Insider that I had spoken with prosecutors and defendants. I did not say where those prosecutors and defense attorneys were, but I've spoken with several, not necessarily in Arizona or in Idaho or in other states. So we will see what happens with that. My hope and my plan, of course, is to go to this trial and to be there every day covering it. And there might be more to report about that angle coming soon. But I have reached out to the defense attorney, Lori Vallow, and the defendant herself, Lori Vallow, about what they might want me to testify about. I have not heard back from the defense team. Okay, so that's one file. A lot there on the witnesses and what we can expect. Now, let's jump over to the other filing that was had. This gives us kind of some insight on what the trial is going to look like. And we've got it up here on the screen. It's the state's amended final trial management conference statement. Basically, this tells us kind of what the state's going to do. Let's go through it. So, here we have the state, the charges, the jury is going to be read, charges in the sentencing range for Lori Vallow is she's charged with one count of conspiracy to commit the first-degree murder. The possible sentence is life without the possibility of parole or 25 years. Life without the possibility of release on any basis until the service of 25 years. So the minimum would be 25 years. She could be up to life. The settlement status, there has been no offer of a plea agreement. There have been no settlement conferences that have happened. And are the defendant and state willing to discuss further settlement? No. So, Lori Vallow is locked into this trial. If she wants a settlement tomorrow, it sounds like she's starting to get it. There will be 12 jurors and 4 alternates. List of potential witnesses for the state. We have the list. From the Chandler Police Department, Daniel Coons, who's retired. Nathan Duncan, we have heard from him. He is a detective. He testified in Idaho. Marissa Francisco, Jason Hunsaker, Robert Crotha, who's retired. Philip McDonald, Nathan Moffat, we've heard from him as well. Ariel Porter, we've heard from him. Erwin Mickey, and Cassandra Younglin, we heard from her in Idaho too. From the fire department, Kent Keller and Scott Cowden, I believe you know from them in Idaho, at least one of them. From the Department of Public Safety, Jeff Moborg. From OME, Dr. Medical Examiner, Dr. Derek Baumgartner. From the Office of the Inspector General, Mark Sari, we've heard from him. From Banner Life Insurance, Robin Smith Scott, she's the custodian of records. So there's all of the officials that could testify in this trial. The civilians include Christina Atwood, Adam Cox, Nancy Jo Hancock, Serena Sharp, and Kay Woodcock. It's estimated the trial will take 5 weeks, and this is the statement of the case that will be read to the jury. The state alleges that on July 11, 2019, at approximately 7:37 a.m., Charles Vallow arrived at 5531 South 4 Peaks Place in Chandler to pick up his son from the residence where his wife, Lori Vallow, Lori Daybell, was living. The state further alleges that Lori Vallow Daybell conspired with her brother, Alex Cox, to kill her husband, Charles Vallow, so she could marry Jack Daybell and obtain money from Charles Vallow's life insurance policy and from Social Security. Special joint voir dire questions will be filed separately. That's where they go in and question the jurors, and then juror instructions plus the original ones will be filed separately. So there you go. It's going to be 5 weeks. Could be less, could be a little bit more, but around 5 weeks. We know that the state's going to call 21 potential witnesses. Lori Vallow, I think on her list had 11. Well, but she didn't include an expert. So that's what you've got there. Something to think about. In a minute here, we'll talk about what the day by day will look like in court. Okay, and now I want to go through some court filings that Lori Vallow has filed for herself. 4 of them. You can see her handwritten with her own pen in the jail cell. Most likely, these are the ones that she wanted to file, where she says that these 3 people should not be allowed to testify. Their names are, as you can see here, Nancy Jo Hancock, Christina Atwood, and Kay Woodcock. Request the state be ordered to exclude the following witnesses' facts. The state's witnesses listed above are not for factual testimony. They are only here to offer speculation and hearsay. Then she goes on to quote some law, federal rule of evidence. The witness has to have personal knowledge of the matter, and that the rule would prevent testimony of the subject if hearsay because there's no personal knowledge. She's saying that these people have no personal knowledge. She quotes a bunch of other case law, a bunch of other cases across America. And then she ends with the state's witnesses above. I don't know that word. The state's witnesses are meant to deprive the defendant the right to due process and right to a fair trial. These witnesses will not be testifying to facts, but opinion, speculation, and hearsay, creating prejudice and bias for the defendant in front of the jury. In conclusion, the defendant requests the above list of witnesses are excluded from testifying in trial, since it was discovered in pre-trial interviews that these witnesses had been communicating with each other regarding the defendant in these cases. None of these communications between the witnesses have been turned over to the defense from the state. And it was discovered by the state, or by the defense in these pre-trial interviews gives the much needed information these witnesses gave. And police interviews was gained from speaking to Kay Woodcock long before they were interviewed by police. All three of the above mentioned witnesses should be excluded from testifying at the trial.
Then the prosecution responded to that, to Lori's request to have them excluded. And here's what she said. Here's what the prosecutor said. The state of Arizona, through undersigned counsel, requested court deny to exclude or to include Nancy Jo Hancock, Christina Atwood, and Kay Woodcock. Defendant argues in the motion that the witnesses are not there for factual, they're only there to offer speculation and hearsay. The defendant writes, among other things, that these three witnesses lack personal knowledge. The defendant seems to argue that therefore the witnesses are not relevant and should be excluded. And then it says, state presumes defendant means precluded. The state disputes these allegations and finds that these objections are more properly raised in trial, not by a pre-trial motion. The defendant is charged with conspiracy to commit first-degree premeditated murder. The state can use both direct and circumstantial evidence to establish that the murder was premeditated. The courts have long held that although motive is not an element of homicide, it is relevant. And then they quote case law. The state submits that the motive for this murder is that Mrs. Vallow, now Daybell, wanted to kill her husband so she would obtain the proceeds from his life insurance policy, Social Security benefits, and be free to marry her current husband, Chad Daybell. Each of these witnesses is relevant to establish premeditation and motive. The judge is on the ship, at least as of this taping, it's impossible to keep on a witness having been out of in there. All right, stick with me. I'm going to need a lot of documents. We're about halfway through. I hope you find this interesting. So that's what we have for the court documents that were filed thus far. We have a few more to talk about, including this one, which is pretty interesting. Lori Vallow, of course, filed a motion saying, I want all the evidence. We talked about that a bit earlier. And she is now saying here that the state of Arizona, or the state is responding that the state has advised that it intends to admit evidence that the murder was committed for financial gain and to allow the defendant to marry another person. They're going to argue that Lori Vallow would kill Charles to get money, but so that she can marry Chad Daybell. The state will admit evidence to prove the murder was premeditated, it was pre-planned, and to show the motive for murder was to obtain the proceeds from a life insurance policy for Charles Vallow, Social Security payments for her surviving child and herself as a mother, and to allow her to marry the person with whom she was having an affair. Evidence of the premeditation and motive will be shown through witnesses in iCloud documents. The state will call a witness from their life insurance company to show that the defendant contacted the victim's insurance company within 4 days of the murder of her husband to collect the proceeds she believed she was the sole beneficiary of. During this recorded call, she provided a different story about how her husband died by telling the life insurance representative that her husband's death was an accident. She told some people it was a heart attack, some people it was an accident, but really he was shot and killed. When the defendant learned she was not the beneficiary, she advised the person she was having an affair with, quote, so I talked to the insurance company, he changed it in March, so it was probably then before we got rid of him. They can't tell me who, of course, but it's done. I'll still get the $4,000 a month from Social Security. This statement by the party opponent about the life insurance proceeds is evidence of the premeditation. The defendant later contacted the sister of Charles Vallow to confront her about the fact that Charles Vallow changed his life insurance policy. The state will present testimony from an investigator with Social Security Administration and iCloud documents to show the defendant was aware of how much money from Social Security she would receive from her son JJ and herself as a result of the death of Charles before she went to speak with anyone at Social Security. This testimony and evidence further support that the defendant premeditated the murder of her husband. The state will present testimony from witnesses who were friends with the defendant and iCloud documents to show that the defendant used her religious belief system as a way to justify the premeditated murder of her husband Charles Vallow. These witnesses and documents were disclosed to the defendant on December 12, 2023, January 9, 2024, and February 26, 2024. So, kind of get a little preview there, a little trailer, you could say, of how the prosecution is going to take their case. We've heard a lot of this in Idaho, of course, As we saw in the witness, we heard from a lot of the same witnesses. We'll hear the phone calls. In a couple days on Corporate Insider, I think early next week, I'll kind of go through some of those calls and the testimony that we've heard before that will be played again, I believe, at this trial to help this jury understand what exactly was going on here in the lives of Lori Mallow and Charles Mallow and Chad David. Okay, so now let's talk about some of the documents that Mallow has filed about what she lives and how she is treated in the courtroom. She's had on handcuffs and ankle shackles every time, and as she said last time, a shock vest, which was kind of news to me. I don't understand through this, to be honest with you. But she's now filed a motion in her own handwriting again about what she hopes will happen at court. And she wants to know what looks. Let's dive in for this one. Lori Mallow requests this court wear civilian clothing during court proceedings, jury selections, and all trial proceedings. The public and prospective jurors are viewing the defendant's proceedings on worldwide media. Hopefully just East.com News. No, just kidding. But you can watch it on East.com News, by the way. The defendant's appearance is, if it jelly uniform, will constitute a violation of the defendant's due process rights. And then she quotes the Sixth Amendment. The state or Madison County's failure to adhere locally or inadvertently would deny and violate the defendant's due process rights. Therefore, the defendant requests that the court order to allow the defendant the fundamental right to wear civilian clothing in all court proceedings, jury selection, and both trials. Then she files another motion. I'm just going to skip through here. The defendant requests that the court allow the defendant to have no restraints, handcuffs, or shackles while in the courtroom during all court proceedings. This request is made pursuant to the 14th Amendment, 5th, 6th, and 8th Amendment. On December 6th, the defendant was granted self-representation. It has been extremely difficult for the defendant to manage files, take copious notes in all pretrial hearings with handcuffs. It would be impossible to represent oneself at trial under these conditions. Also, the defendant's appearance in restraints, handcuffs, or shackles violates her due process rights. It impedes her ability to perform writing tasks in her defense. If the defendant is going to properly be allowed to, quote, defend herself, she must not appear separate or different from the state representative. To be able to stand, walk, or move about the courtroom as the other attorneys is imperative in a fair trial. If any opposed to the Madison County Sheriff's Office restraints cause this defendant to appear to the jury different from the state's representation, it would violate the defendant's due process rights and the right to a fair trial. This defendant's documented behavior for the last 5 years while in custody warrants no restraints necessary during trial at all. This defendant has been through a long trial without any misbehavior at all. This defendant has only displayed stellar behavior all of the time that she has been in custody and incarcerated over the last 5 years. Therefore, the defendant requests that all security restraints be waived for this particular defendant. The defendant also requests the use of a pen at her trial table to take notes. At the minimum, the defendant requests this court to order the state that the Sheriff's Office remove restraints, handcuffs, and shackles for all trial proceedings, full trials. Well, Lori is right in the fact she has behaved at all court proceedings, and she didn't cause any issues in Idaho. She wasn't, I don't believe she was handcuffed in Idaho. I'll have to go back and check. I can't believe I don't remember. There's been so many of these hearings. If you were there, let me know in the comments if you remember. So here's the thing. The judge on these, the judge already ruled on the clothing. And he said she could wear normal street clothes during the trial and jury selection. On all other hearings, she can't. She has to wear her outfit from the jail. The sheriff actually responded to her request with this as far as the shackles and clothing. The sheriff said the judge already ruled on the clothing, no use for, talking about it. But talking about having the handcuffs and the shackles removed, this was pretty interesting. The sheriff said, and let me pull this up here. There we go. In the defendant's case, the sheriff's office has reviewed her request and recognizes that she needs to move about the courtroom. However, pursuant to policies and procedures and the sheriff's office duty to maintain control and custody of inmates and to ensure the safety and security of the courtroom, the defendant cannot go unrestrained. As such, the sheriff's office recommends the use of a rack vest. And in addition to the
And in addition to the detention officers in the courtroom during the defendant's trial, and in addition, having more deputies in there. The rack belt is designed to temporarily stun an attacking detainee, thus buying time for courtroom security officers to react. The belt sits comfortably on the defendant with straps adjustable to a particular defendant's body type. The belt is not visible to the jury. Further, the belt works on a one remote, one sensor system, ensuring that activation of other remotes will not trigger the vest accidentally. These two security devices permit the sheriff's office to restrain defendants in the courtroom. Without any restraints, we have to recommend an unarmed detention officer and an armed sheriff deputy in the courtroom. And then the sheriff said, after reviewing the motion, I have the following recommendations. Normally, inmates attending a trial wear a leg brace and a rack belt around their waist, which allows detention officers to deliver an electric shock by remote control. These two devices are worn under the clothing of the inmate and are not visible to the jurors. Handcuffs, leg chains, and inmate uniforms are not worn while in the courtroom. She hasn't been wearing handcuffs. And this is done specifically to prevent jury from knowing the defendant is currently an inmate. Okay, so it sounds like during trials they don't wear the handcuffs. The jail staff maintain control and custody of the inmates during transports to the jails and all the back and forth. Once an inmate leaves a secure jail facility, all inmates are restrained while outside the facility. In this case, they could remove the restraints while she's in the courtroom, and she could wear that rack, belt, and vest, which isn't seen from the jury, and a hidden leg brace to restrain to limit mobility. And so they're saying maybe, she can see she's not, because she's in her jury, she needs to move around, she might not need the leg brace, but there's no reason that she wouldn't need the rack belt. So that's pretty interesting. I did not know about this rack belt. I don't know if I've seen that item, but I'm going to check and maybe we'll do a story on what is a rack belt. I don't know if it's like a taser, you can feel it over the shoulders or something, but obviously it's enough to kind of get the person to pay attention and behave and not run away, which you need these days in court proceedings because you've seen it all the time. We saw it in that video of the guy in Vegas who jumped over the desk. I think it was Las Vegas and attacked the judge while she was on the bench. It was startling to say. Okay, two more motions, and we'll get to your questions. I promise. And here's one of the motions filed by the state. Followed by Lori. She is upset with the jury questionnaire, specifically question 12. Now, we have not seen the full questionnaire. It has not been released to the public, but apparently just question 12 says, the state alleges on July 19, 2019, when approximately 7:37, Charles Vallow arrived in Chandler, Arizona residence where his wife, Lori Vallow, or Daybell, and children were living. The state further alleges that Lori Vallow Daybell conspired with her brother Alex Cox to kill her husband Charles Vallow. She wants to. Lori Daybell denies this allegation. She pulled that underlined it. The defendant would also like to bring to the court's attention that the state's final trial management conference pre-trial statement was not a joint statement, and the state did not confer with Mrs. Daybell or any member of her defense team filing to this statement. The defendant requested this court also require the state to amend the language in the pre-trial where it states a brief statement of case to be read to the jury to reflect the defendant's objection and suggested language. So that statement I read earlier that they said will be read to the jury, Lori is asking to include that line, Lori Daybell denies this allegation. I could get that. I would imagine that's a reasonable request from her, and I could see maybe the judge putting it in there. Just to be sure the jury hears that up front, that she's accused of this, she denies it. Now, our last motion to talk about today, by the way, there were more, I didn't pull them all out, let's save some for another day. This is a motion filed by the state.
This could be you on your closing day with CBH Homes. Are you ready for your red confetti moment? Visit cbhhomes.com to shop new homes starting from $1,850 a month.
Taking the time to savor Tom's crunchy yet soft bagels.
Thanks, Tom.
Is that Tom, actually? Right, Tom. Tom. Is your name Tom?
Tom.
Tam. How we go to town? Huzzah! A toast to breakfast. That's what you just said. An IRA match with Robin of Gold. Reckon they'd have some bands. delivers for a living.
Sure do.
When it comes to her car, well, it barely delivers anything.
What?
Her tires are worn out. That's why Debbie's going to Commercial Tire. One-inch stitches. Pro-level service to the tire selection items. Commercial Tire, our experience makes your experience better. Tires for you, tires for everyone. Yes, even Debbie.
To conclude defense expert one, working and conclude noticed witnesses. So Lonnie is Lori's expert, and she says you come in and evaluate all the cell phone information, data that's on those phones and devices and whatnot. The prosecution made a point that we're getting kind of late here. The trial is coming soon, and the judge even told Lori, listen, we did not file this. You need 30 days, and you're past the deadline. And she said it's been hard, she did have some reason why she did it. But now the state's responding and saying, no, you shouldn't be allowed. Here's what they say. They're saying that the state requests the court include Lonnie is that the defendant did not comply with the rules. The state further requests they include all other noticed witnesses as the defendant has not complied with the rule. On March 6th, she filed a motion for both cases that the prosecution talks through. Many of the individuals are not handled by police, therefore the state cannot obtain information. The state has the right and an obligation to go through and interview all of the witnesses on Lori's list. They couldn't find them. That was the problem. And Trina Kay went through this in the last hearing saying, we went back and forth, and I'm not going to read all this, but basically Lori's investigator, Jeff White, emailed me late. Some of the information, we didn't have the information how to contact all these witnesses, and we just couldn't through them. And they're talking, in this filing, it goes through to say that on March 13th, less than a month before trial, the state emailed defense investigator Jeff White and defense attorney Ramirez and asked what specifically Mr. Lonnie York was being hired to do. The state also requested the addresses and contact information for all noticed defense witnesses. Neither Ramirez nor Jeff White responded to the email request. The next day, they emailed Jeff White and Ramirez requesting additional contact information for the witnesses. The state has now received a response. The state sounds like it's trying to, get their ducks in a row for this trial. The defense simply is not responding. And they're saying that the defense did not, Laura Gallo did not comply with the rules by saying that you hire an expert, so she hires this expert, let's say the judge allowed to get in, and the judge, if the guy had time to go through all the data, the state, because the burden's on them, then has the right to go and have another witness examine what their witness found, the defense witness found. So they don't have the time for this trial that's happening in a week. And the state was on, detail the back and forth between them trying to get information from the defense lack of response, or responding but not in a fully complete way. Also, they know somewhere in here that they're seeing now is that, from what they understand, Mr. Lonnie York has not had any time to look at this. And we'll end it with the final paragraph. Trial of this matter is set to begin in 15 days. By the way, this was filed last week. The state will not have time to interview 11 defense witnesses and file any appropriate motions of limited, nor will the state have time to interview the defense expert and determine if the state needs an expert to rebut what Mr. Jordan will opine. For these reasons, the state requests the court conclude all 12 of the defendant's notice witnesses pursuant to Rule 15.7c violations. Again, as far as we know, the judge has not ruled on that. I am included on that list, so assuming the judge grants that, I will be not have to testify. So we'll see what happens there. Thank you for sticking with me on all those documents. Now, here's what you need to know. Coming up, here's our schedule going forward. For the next couple of weeks, this up. Didn't Jordan do a good job with the studio? Just look at it. He painted these walls himself. Yeah, he did that. This is where the corner of our ritual that used to hold file cabinets. Now we're broadcasting live to you all over the world. Here's what we've got coming up. Jury selection begins the 31st, and it goes through April 4th. The cameras will not be allowed in that. I'm going to try to get in
but from what I understand is if they need all the space for jurors, I'm not sure how that's going to work for media, but I'll still report as much as I can. We'll still do court insider every day. On April 7th is the opening statements. That's Monday. And then the trial is scheduled to run April 7th through May 9th. It could end earlier if it goes quicker. Could maybe even extend the week. Those are kind of the dates to keep an eye on. Proceedings will begin at 10:30 a.m. Arizona time. That's 11:30 a.m. Mountain time. Live stream begins 30 minutes after court starts. So, if you're in the Mountain Time Zone and maybe you are in Idaho, the live stream will begin at noon, assuming they start right at 10:30. The judges issue a 30-minute wait on all video that goes out in case a juror is accidentally shown or something happens that he doesn't want out. The media, all the media, this is just us, all the media has to watch the video in advance. But we will start live on our channel when court starts. It'll just be a standby time. So you can load it up in the background of your computer and your phone. The second we go live, we'll have it for you so you can know that it'll be there ready to go. Court will not be held on Fridays. So it's going to be kind of nice 3-day weekend for these jurors. And we'll start at 10:30 on Tuesday. Here's how you can stay updated. One, you can read live updates about the trial on Peace the Dudes Jaway. Now, we did this on the first trial, you might remember before, where we didn't have cameras in there, and many of you wanted to stay up to date every day. And I posted live updates. We're going to do that again, and then we're going to make X2. You can go to psychedelic.com every day, starting at noon. Now, it's only about 5, I think. You can do that there. You can watch the trial on our YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed, that is awesome. And what do they say? Like, hit that bell button, and I guess you get notified when we go live. And you can know when we're live, and we'll have that for hearing for you. Court Insider every night is going to be at 8 p.m. Mountain Time. Just normally we do it at 7. It's going to be at 8 because court's going to end a little bit later, and now we need a little bit of time to prepare. So 8 o'clock Mountain, we'll be live every night with trials and sessions, probably on Sundays too. And then sign up for our daily digest newsletter. If you go to peacetime.news.com, click on the PayPal section, click on Daily Digest. Every day at the end of the day, we send out an email that gives you all the day news. If you really want all that, you can do those things, and that's how you can stay up to date. You can also find me here, Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, and East Idaho News on YouTube. Those are the channels and the platforms that will have all the information on this trial. And I'm happy to announce that on Thursday, here on Court Insider, Colby Ryan, one-on-one, me and Colby. I have not interviewed Colby in depth ever before now. I spoke with him 2 or 3 times briefly outside courtrooms, 1 or 2 questions, mic in the face type thing. I've texted with him, but we are sitting down for about an hour. And nothing's off the table. And then the next night, on Friday, I'm going on his channel. So we're doing a little bit of collaboration here where he'll come and talk to me, and then you can watch. He's turning the tables and interviewing me on Friday night on the Star Wars podcast. So join me here on Thursday, 7 o'clock Mountain. We'll have Colby Ryan, and then on Friday, we'll have me and Colby on his channel. Okay. Peggy has been patiently waiting. Now, many of you have interacted with Peggy on our YouTube channel or our Facebook page. Peggy is our comment moderator. So, Peggy, what exactly does that mean?
Okay, well, to me, it just means that I kind of keep everybody playing nice in the sandbox together. We all come with the comments, and we all come with our own life experiences, our own feelings about a subject. Let's just remember to attack the problem and not the person. In other words, not each other. And I think that's the moment.
She does. There's your word of wisdom for the day. Now, most of you attack the problem, not the person. She said, most of you are fine. Most of you behave yourselves, but some of you don't. And that's where Peggy comes in. So, where can people watch this trial, Peggy?
My costumes complete every repair, without giving an inch. Only Harbor Freight.
The beverage aisle is a lot different than it used to. America's beverage companies are working together. We're delivering more of your favorites with zero sugar, more sizes, and clear calorie information. When it comes to finding balance, the more choices, the better.
Blackmail on date one? Not good. Streaming exclusively on Max.
Roundups may have changed, and saving stocks are Bitcoin. Use your cash app card.
Give me 17 cents off Bitcoin! My medic was born from a tragic car accident that took a family member's life. It is now our mission to make sure that everyone has access to a life-saving first aid kit. Shop mymedic.com now to find your kit to protect your family and yourself.
Okay, so I'm going to direct y'all to YouTube channel, the Psychedelic Aire YouTube channel, and that's where you can watch it live during the day of the trial, but you can also take time to leave a question there. If you want a shout out, you're welcome to ask for that. I want people to know that not to be impersonal. If I don't get to their question, I'll try my very best. Also, the shout outs, I keep track of who leaves, whose names I choose, so that I don't have the same person 15 times on a shout out, right? So,
And many of you have contacted us to say, why won't Peggy choose my question? Or why won't she give me the shout out? So just be patient, leave your comment on YouTube. We're going to be streaming the trial every day. Peggy will jump in there and create kind of a community, which surprised me kind of honestly, Peggy, during Chad Daybell's trial, that so many people would like wait for you to come in there. And I would occasionally jump in the chat and be like, hey, how you doing? Or whatnot. And people would look forward to interacting with really strangers bonding over this crazy case.
yes, that's absolutely right. They look forward to being together. It's a community, like you say. I look forward to being there. I can't wait for it to start. I will be in the comments off and on during those days, during the live streams. I look forward to communicating with you guys. We do have the best viewers in the world, Nate.
I agree. So, like the channel or subscribe to the channel, and then you can follow the trial and then stick with us for Corporate Insider. Peggy, anything else you want to add?
I don't. Just remember to be kind, and we're all in it together.
Okay, we have a shirt coming out, maybe special Peggy's honor. It says, I come for the news, stay for the comments. And in a few days, I'll let you know how you can get it, because everybody loves that. Peggy, good seeing you. Thank you. See you in Arizona. Okay, bye-bye. All right, so with that being said, Peggy, we are going to let her go. And we have some questions. Speaking of questions that we talked about, actually, we do have some shout-outs. So, shout-outs tonight. Jordan right here, he gets a shout-out. He's going to wait again one more time. Look at my Hawaii background. That, by the way, it's not any tie to Chad and Lori. I was in Hawaii after the fact when I took this picture. Now it's the background. It's that peaceful. Just look at it. Pretend we were there. Jordan's here. I want to shout out Caitlin and Daniel and Nate and Brett. They're in our newsroom, and they've been so quiet during this. We're going to have to figure out a wall to sound with it. But shout out to them. Rhonda is watching. Rhonda, thank you. Alex as well. Amy, Brian, Lauren, and Alex in Arizona, in Mesa. Thank you for watching. Kurt, Cheryl, happy birthday late. She had a birthday last week, and I hope it was really amazing. Josh, Ellen, and Greg, happy birthday. Happy birthday. Thank you all for watching. Okay, a couple of questions here before we go. Could Lori face the death penalty in Arizona? Could she still get the death penalty in Idaho? No and no. The crime she's charged with in Arizona is not eligible for the death penalty, as we talked about earlier. She could get life in prison, and then Idaho's done. Unless somehow the appeal goes through and they have to retry her. That would be crazy, though, if that all happened. But no, she'll be facing life in prison. And once the trials in Arizona are done, whether she's found guilty or not guilty, she will be transferred back to Idaho. She's an Idaho inmate. She will serve her time here. Could Lori take a plea agreement or plead guilty at this point? Well, I would have said yes. I mean, maybe you see it in a lot of trials where, not a lot, but sometimes. My wife was on jury duty once. She got picked, and when the defendant walked in, he saw the jury and he said, "Okay, I want to take a plea," and it was done. So even though that statement earlier that I referred to from the prosecution said that that there would be no pleas going forward, maybe there might be, but I don't know. I can't speak for them. So yes, she can always plead guilty. She can come out and plead guilty, and ultimately the punishment's not going to change because she's coming back to Idaho. But I don't know if she's going to do that. Do you think you will have to take the stand, the witness stand? We talked about that earlier. I hope not. I hope not. I don't know what more I can add. I didn't witness this crime, and as the prosecutor mentioned, I have only reported what I've learned from my own investigation and through interviews with others. Will Lori testify? That's the good question. She's on her list to testify. If she does testify, then the prosecution can cross-examine her. And if she does testify, then she has to write out her questions and give them to her paralegal or her legal team, and then they will ask them to her, so she can't just get up there and speak nonstop. Why does court not happen on Friday, and why does it start so late? Apparently in Maricopa County, they don't do trials on Friday. They don't do court proceedings on Friday. It probably makes it much easier on the jurors, and it probably starts late as well for the same reason, because a lot of people are trying. It's such a massive county. It's so big that you have to travel in the traffic and getting kids to school and whatnot. It would be very difficult, I imagine, for most people to try to get there by 8 o'clock, 8:30, 9 o'clock. So they started at 10:30. They probably, in Idaho, they all met somewhere and really got vans together. And I don't know if they do that in Arizona. If you're there and send me a message. And that could take, meeting at 9 somewhere, picking everybody up, getting downtown, going to the jury room. So it could take time. My wrists would be very appreciative of that shorter day because the seats in the other courtroom were far more comfortable than in Idaho. So, yeah. Could Lori be setting this all up for a big appeal? Perhaps she'll probably appeal any way that she can, but I would imagine, but I don't know how. The judge was very particular with her when she said she wanted to represent herself. Like, are you sure? Do you understand what this means? Are you positive? Blah, 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 blah. Have you heard anything more about Lori's interview with Keith? No, other than Keith did a podcast, I think it's called Talking Dateline, where he talked a little bit more about it. They played a clip they hadn't played before about her loving Chad. And that was interesting to listen to, but I don't even know if she's seen the interview. Yeah. When do you leave for Arizona? Are you flying or driving? I'll give you a ride, and we can talk about the case the entire way. LOL. George, did you say that? No. I am driving. I leave this week, and I am going to do a couple videos as I drive down. I'm all by myself. I'm going to pack up the car. Teton Toyota has been wonderful, and I'm taking one of their cars. They're helping us out, helping me get down there. So big thanks to Teton Toyota, Greg Augustus, and Mario. All those guys are great. So I'm going to drive one of their cars down, and I'll fill you in along the way. I'll probably stop one night. Maybe I'll go straight through. I'm not sure. And thank you for your offer of a ride. I don't think I'll be talking about the case all the way down. But, by the way, that reminds me, if you have a good podcast or music I should listen to, let me know. Because I got to kill, I think it's 13 or 14 hours from here. The original crimes happened in Arizona first. Why are the trials happening last? Good question. So, yes, the original crime happened in July of 2019, and then the children were killed, and Tammy Daybell was killed in the fall of 2019. And then Idaho went first. The reason being that the kids missing kind of took precedent over Charles Vallow, just because he wasn't missing, they knew where he was. And They arrested her in Idaho. They kept her there. I'm sure there was much discussion between all the agencies of do we move her, but I think they wanted to go with those Idahoans first because she was there. Chad was there. Chad doesn't face any. And remember, in Idaho, Chad and Lori's cases were combined, so it's going to be one big trial. But then they were severed, and then Chad doesn't face any trials in Arizona, any charges in Arizona. So that's probably why. Do you think if Alex was still alive, he'd be facing criminal charges, or would he fall on the sword for Chad and Lori? Yes, I think he would face charges. I don't know if he'd fall on the sword for them. I've heard some theories that maybe he might rat on them, that he might turn on them. It seemed toward the end of his life he was realizing that this wasn't all as it seemed to be, and Chad and Lori seemed to get rid of anyone that was in their way, and maybe he was in their way, perhaps. So I don't know, that would be the really fascinating, well, so many fascinating things about this, but one of the really fascinating things is if Alex was here, what would have happened with him? You ate a lot of Smarties during the trial and the other trials. What is your go-to candy this time around? That's a good question. I don't think I've had a Smartie since the last trial. I think I got kind of tired of Smarties. I've been trying to eat a lot better too, but I'll have to find something. Although with that shorter court day, I don't know. Maybe I won't eat candy, but so many of you were so kind to bring me candy, and if I didn't eat it, guaranteed my kids ate it or my colleagues ate it. In fact, we showed up here one day. Well, I didn't because I was in Boise. One of you sent a case of like Bitto honeys and what was the other one? Cinnamon bears? Yeah. Cinnamon bears and Bitto honeys. And they were left on our porch here at East Side News, so thank you. Last question. Can you come over for dinner one night in Arizona? We'd love to have you. Well, thank you. As I thank you when I listened from someone very kind. I'll be honest. When I was in Boise, I didn't have dinner with one person the entire time. I maybe one night. I did one night with a friend. He came to town because I like it in the zone where I'm in court. Then I prepare for Courtroom Insider. Then I do Courtroom Insider, and at that point, I don't really want to talk or think, and that's when I eat dinner. But thank you. That's very kind of you. And maybe because I guess I feel social. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here for Courtroom Insider. We'll be back Thursday night with Colby Ryan. Don't miss it. It's going to be a phenomenal conversation. I do a big thanks to Jordan for putting this all together. Now that I'm leaving, when I get back, we'll be doing more Courtroom Insiders from here. Maybe we'll have some of you on as guests. Let us know what you think of it. Beautiful Hawaiian area there, and so much more to do. Again, I told you where you can find me. And if you have any questions, please send them in. And I hope you have a great night. Thanks for watching.
Three things you never knew you needed in a bra until now. No wires, but still all the support. 3D molded cups that don't move. Smooth satin touch that's actually comfortable. Feel amazing in an under outfit.
这样子的一种作为，可以从我们反映它对这个区域和平稳定的一个破坏，这个显而易见是一个非常明显的一个麻烦的制造者。
We are coming on the air with the markets and business owners and anybody that buys groceries buckled in and hurtling toward what President Trump calls Liberation Day, aka Trade War Day, or Tariff Day, or whatever you want to call it. It could be big. But how big? Who will be targeted? Everyone? Some countries? And with a couple markets having their worst quarters in years, what does it mean for the price you pay? We're live at the White House and the big board with today's developments. An emotional rally late tonight after police say a reckless driver ended the lives of a mom and her 2 young kids. The new push for protection in New York City and around the country that could make a difference where you live. Plus, wielding his wealth in Wisconsin, Elon Musk at the center of a key political litmus test. Why critics argue he's buying off the state Supreme Court seat, and more on those $1 million checks he cut to voters could be taking their lives. And the new fallout tonight after President Trump says he's not joking about a third term in office. So then why is the Senate's most powerful Republican telling our team the president's just messing around? Plus, why the so-called torpedo bats have everyone's heads spinning and lips flapping later in the show. Hey, I'm Hallie, and tonight Wall Street is maybe trying to figure out what is going down with what President Trump calls Liberation Day, the expected escalation of his trade war. Take a look. Stocks are a little bit mixed tonight. You had the Dow, the S&P, and the green. After the S&P hit its lowest level since September, a little bit earlier today, the NASDAQ closed down, and those latter two you just saw having their worst quarters in more than 2 years. Everybody waiting for the Trump administration to reveal, well, something on tariffs on Wednesday. Maybe a whole bunch of tariffs, maybe some tariffs, maybe every tariff that's actually part of it. We don't really know for sure what quote-unquote Liberation Day will entail. And if the White House knows, they're not being super specific publicly, except to say this. Any country that has treated the American people unfairly should expect to receive a tariff in return. Okay, but so what does treated Americans unfairly mean? Is there wiggle room for certain countries? What about a massive across-the-board hike that could raise the price of metals and lumber and medicine and electronics, cars too, since foreign automakers are expected to crank up their prices in return? Here's what one Michigan dealership owner is telling our Garrett Haig today.
Warren, a certain ally went through COVID with a chip crisis. It's like a cliff. We're jumping off the cliff right now. And you can't see the bottom.
The president tells NBC News exclusively he, in his words, couldn't care less about foreign car costs going up. More on that in a second. Remember why the president is doing all this, right? He and his team have a vision of reshaping the American economy. And in their view, hey, if you have to crack a few eggs along the way, ... Now, a separate thing is whether Americans are into this at the moment, with the new CBS YouGov poll showing about 52%, so just about more than half of Americans, have a negative view of how the president is handling the economy. We're getting into all of it. Kelly O'Donnell is following the latest from the White House, but I want to start with Christine Romans on the markets and on the question marks tonight. And there are a lot of question marks, Christine, because what is even on the menu of options here? Reciprocal tariffs, across-the-board tariffs, industry-specific tariffs. Like, what's up? And we've been waiting to really clarity on this for a long time, and that lack of clarity is one reason markets have been stressing out so much. So look, this is all the stuff that's in effect, right, or coming soon. These are a lot of big numbers. These will disrupt supply chains and raise prices, almost all experts agree. Here's what we're waiting for from Liberation Day. Liberation from foreign goods, foreign-made goods. That's what the president is promising. You've got 12,500 tariff categories, Hallie, 200 trading partners. I'm not very good at math, but that's something like 2 million possibilities for individual tariffs. So what they could do here is they could do, as the president has said, it's a tariff on the United States. There would be a reciprocal tariff on that. They could just put blanket 20% tariffs or 60% tariffs in the case of his promises about China during the election. Or they could take average tariff rates per country and just reciprocate those, not individual categories. We just don't know. You talk about the uncertainty here, Christine, and if there's one theme, I think, for the conversations that you and I have had over the course of the last several years, it's that markets don't love uncertainty. Or do you feel like we're seeing some of that today? I've been hearing so many of these business leaders tell me uncertainty is the enemy of growth. Uncertainty, you heard that business leader there, that dealer, that car dealer there, they're equating this to the great financial crisis or COVID and the supply disruptions from that. That's the level of uncertainty you're hearing overall. What is certain, the retaliation, look at this retaliation. There could be potentially more that disrupt things even more, and that's why in the Trump administration, you've got the S&P 500, the worst quarter in like 3 years. You talk about people, business owners, entrepreneurs, industry, bracing for the possibility things are going to get more expensive, and that will include cars, almost certainly. But the president telling our Kristen Welker that he doesn't care if foreign cars get more expensive, since it'll incentivize people to buy American. Is that how it works? No. Back to you. No, it doesn't. I mean, the thing is, the American car, the most American car we can find, and it's a Ford, is 80% American. 20% of the components come from someplace else. Some of those can be high-value components, like an engine or transmission or something, if you're talking about other foreign automakers. And then you've got foreign automakers that are making a car almost 70 or 75% in the United States, and then just dropping the engine or the transmission in at the end. So there are hundreds and thousands of jobs around a foreign automaker making a car in the U.S. BMW, for example, is the largest automotive exporter from the East Coast, right? It exports all these cars and makes here. So it is, at the same time, also importing a lot of parts. It is a truly regional, North American, global supply chain that's taken 40 years to get this way. The reason it is the way it is, one senior official of a top automaker told me, is because this is the best way to do it, to keep prices where they are for consumers. You want to blow this supply chain up, it'll cost more for everybody. Christine Romans, thank you very much. On that note, let me bring in Kelly O'Donnell, who is joining us now, because Kelly, it is not surprising the president is putting tariffs in place. He has talked about that for as long as he's been in the public eye in this run for office and now in office here, right? He has been crystal clear that this is what he wants. If there is anything that may perhaps get him to change course, it could potentially be public pressure, Kelly. And we're starting to see some new polling, including that new CBS UCO poll that shows 64% of people say the president is not focused enough on lowering prices for that. More than half say he's focusing too much on tariffs here. Is there a sense among folks you're talking to that political pressure from voters could make a difference here? It has in the past, and certainly political pressure from lawmakers does as well, because they can have first-person conversations with the president. He interacts with members of the Senate and the House routinely, and we do hear from some Republicans who are in elective office right now. They're concerned about the rising costs that could come from tariffs. You're right, the president has been clear he wants them. Where it is less clear is exactly how he will deploy them, how he will impose them, what sectors, what countries. A lot of that is uncertain. We just discussed it. And the president leans heavily into branding. Calling something Liberation Day does not really inform the public on what's coming, but it is his way of focusing what he hopes to achieve, which is to get the American economy to have more manufacturing at home. That is a long-term play. It is not something that happens overnight. And balancing what he argues are trade imbalances with a number of other countries. So those are stated goals of the president. And in addition, he also at certain points talked about it being driven by fentanyl concerns. So there have been a lot of reasons, a lot of justifications, and now kind of the day of action is expected to come. And then measuring the fallout may tell us how much the president is willing to adjust, or if countries or sectors are able to persuade him to take a different action. That's right, the negotiation.